welcome back. This is Mrs. Rootbright with Algebra 1 Honors. Today's lesson is 8-9, the quadratic formula and the discriminant. Alright guys, so deriving the quadratic formula. Solve the general form of the quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 by completing the square to find the values of x in terms of a, b, and c. Subtract c from both sides of the equation. Multiply both sides of the equation by 4a to make the coefficient of x squared a perfect square. For a, b, x. Okay. And then they want to add b squared to both sides of the equation to complete the square. Then write the trinomial as a square of a binomial. Apply the definition of square root to solve for x. We're taking the square root on both sides. Okay. So, you guys can't see what I'm doing. So, the formula for this is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to show you guys something really quick.
So, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Good job. You're so good.
I want to see my video.
Okay, I'll show you.
Alright guys, so that is my daughter when she was only 3. Or no, sorry, she's 3 now. She was 1. And she knew the quadratic formula. So it's not that hard to memorize the quadratic formula. If my 1-year-old could do it, then she did it when she was 1. You guys can do it too. So, really quickly, I want you guys to practice the quadratic formula with me real quick. We're going to sing. And it goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Everybody, because I'm going to keep going until you guys do it. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm not kidding. I'm going to keep singing. I'm going to keep singing till you sing. So please start singing with me right now, please. Come on, guys. For real. Like, every single person's going to be singing, or we're not going to stop singing. So everybody, all together as a class. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. One last time. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so hopefully now that we've sung that a bunch of times, it's going to stick into your head and be embedded there, because it is super duper important that you guys do know the quadratic formula, since you're going to need to use it for the next few years. It's not going away. You are going to be using it. You're going to be using it over and over again, so it's really important that you guys do know it. All right, so let's see. Oops. I wanted to kind of move this little frame. I don't know why it's not letting me resize it. It normally does, but for some reason it's just letting me drag it. Oh well. Okay, so we are going to continue this lesson. Now that we know the quadratic formula, we're going to start using it. So let's actually just get to a problem where we can use it. All right, I kind of want to also talk to you guys about the discriminant. So the discriminant is this part right here. It's the b squared minus 4ac. And so that part is called the discriminant. And the discriminant determines whether or not you can solve this if it has any real solutions. So if you have the square root of a negative number, like the square root of -4, the square root is a number times itself giving you that number. Well, if it's a negative times a negative gives you a positive, and a positive times a positive gives you a positive. So you'll never have two numbers being multiplied by each other giving you a negative. So the square root of 4 is 2, but the square root of -4, this is an imaginary 2 because you can't get a negative. So if it's the square root of a negative, it's an imaginary number, not a real number. Okay, so this is a real solution. This is imaginary. So in Algebra 1, we don't really deal in the world of imaginaries, so we just say no solution. Okay, in Algebra 1, if your discriminant is negative, it's just no solution. When you get into Algebra 2, you're going to deal with your real versus your imaginary solutions. But right now, no solution. So if your discriminant is a positive number, then it's going to have how many solutions? If your discriminant is positive, so if this is greater than 0, it's going to have two solutions. If it's less than 0, if it's negative, it's going to have no solution. And if it equals 0, it's going to have one solution. Right? Because something plus or minus 0 is going to give you the same answer. If it has one solution, that means that the parabola's vertex is on the x-axis. Right? The vertex is on the x-axis. Two solutions, it's going to intersect the x-axis in two places. So it's going like this or like this, right? It's intersecting the x-axis in two places. No solution, for your no solution, it's either above it going up or maybe it's below it going down, right? That'd be no solution. It doesn't cross the x-axis anywhere. This would be two solutions, right? And one solution would have the vertex on the x-axis because that's what your solutions are. Solutions, zeros, x-intercepts, roots, those all are synonyms for the same thing, which is where does it cross the x-axis? Okay, does this make sense? So, let's solve some problems. Use the quadratic formula to solve the quadratic equation. So, we need to identify what is our A, what is our B, what is our C, because now that we know the song, we need to know how to use it. So A is 6, B is 5, and C is -4. So x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. See how I did that? X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now we have -5 plus or minus 25. A negative times a negative is a positive, so plus 4 times 6 is 24. 24 times 4, 96. All over 2 times 6, or 2 times 12. 2 times 6 is 12, sorry. So now 25 plus 96. $121. The square root in 121 is 11. -5 plus 11 over 12. -5 minus 11 over 12. -5 plus 11 is 6/12. And 6 over 12 reduces to 1/2. Negative 5 minus 11 is negative 16 over 12, which 4 goes in there 4 times, 4 goes in there 3 times, negative 4/3. So those are your two solutions. Write this equation in standard form. So it'd be x squared minus 4x plus 7 equals 0. Right, you need to move that 4x to the other side by subtracting it from both sides. So my A is 1. There's nothing out in front of it. It's a 1. B is negative 4, and C is 7. Is everyone clear on how to identify A, B, and C? So I want you guys to take a second to try and plug it into this formula and try to solve this problem. I hear you guys singing and humming, and that's what I love. You guys are going to thank me on the EOC when you hear my voice singing in your head and you know the formula because of me. Just saying. Just saying. All right, guys, so when you plug this in, x equals negative b, a negative negative 4 is really going to be a positive 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative 4 squared is 16, minus 7 times 4, 7, 7, 14, 28, 4 all over 2. You're going to get a negative under your discriminant. That negative, the discriminant is negative, so there is no solution. Make sense? If your discriminant's negative, there's no solution. Try this next one. 5x squared, oh, you can write it right here, plus 14x plus 9.8 equals 0. Did you guys get it? The discriminant is 0, so there's one solution. Your solution is negative 7/5. Negative 7/5. All right, so let's move on to some practice problems. How many real solutions does the equation have? Do not solve the equation. So if we want to just know what the real solutions are, how many real solutions, we can just find the discriminant, the b squared minus 4ac, right? B squared minus 4ac. So that'd be 8 squared minus 4ac. 4 times 3 times 6 is 72. 64 minus 72, it's negative. None. No solutions, right? So on this one, what do we have? We have z squared minus 9 equals 0. So b squared minus 4ac. There's b is 0 minus 4ac. 9 times 4, you're going to have 0 plus 36, so you're going to have a positive answer, so it's going to have two solutions, which you should have known right off the bat just by looking at it, because you take square root, positive, negative, your answer would be 3 and negative 3, right? Solving by square roots. Over here, 9d squared minus 24d plus 16 equals 0. B squared minus 4ac. 4 times 9 times 16. 24 squared. 576 minus 576, 0. How many solutions if my discriminant is 0? How many solutions for a discriminant of 0? Something plus or minus 0 all over something, you're going to have only one answer because plus or minus 0 is the same thing, so one solution. Negative 2x squared plus 10x minus 25 equals 0. Negative b squared minus 4ac. So b squared minus 4ac. 100. Four times 2 times 25 equals, and it's negative. So negative 100. A negative answer is going to be no solution, or none. I'm going to write none. How many solutions? There are none. So I got 0, 2, 1, 0. Does that make sense? Just looking at my discriminant. Solve the equation using the quadratic formula. Round to your nearest hundredth if necessary. I want you guys to try out number 5. times get 4. One solution, the solution's 4. The square root of 64 minus 64, the square root of 0 is 0. 8 plus or minus 0 is just 8. 8 over 2 is 4. Try number 9. Okay, so I can pull 16 out of 1269. So 16 times what? So 1264 divided by 16 is 79. So negative 16 plus or minus 2 square roots of 79 all over 6. Because 16 times 79. And the square root of 16 is 4. Sorry, that should have been a 4. Square root of 16 is 4. You can reduce. 2 goes in here twice. 2 goes in here 8 times. 2 goes in here 3 times. So negative 8 plus or minus 2 rad 79 over 3. They are actually giving these as decimals. It says round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So you don't even have to reduce this. You can just go straight from here. So you do 1264 square root button plus 16 negative equals, divide by 6 equals, and you get approximately 3.26. And then you do the same thing, 1264 square root negative plus 16 negative equals, divide by 6 equals, and I got negative 8.59. And those are your two solutions. Okay? So when they let you just round it to a decimal, it's easier than having to reduce those radicals. State what method you would use to solve the equation. Justify your answer. You don't need to solve the equation. Okay, so if I had 4x squared minus 20x plus 25 equals 0, what would you guys use? Perfect square, minus 2 times 5 times 2 is 10, times 2 is 20. This is totally going to be a perfect square trinomial, right? I would just use perfect square trinomial. So I'd factor. It's a perfect square trinomial. How about here? What method would you use? Square roots, right? Divide by 2 and then square root. You divide by 2 and take the square root, square roots. How about here? Perfect square, 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10, times 2 is not 18. Would it factor? Maybe. If not, quadratic formula. I would try to factor and then use the quadratic formula, although it would be factoring with large numbers, but you can do it either way. You could try to factor it. It ends up being that this doesn't factor, so the best and only way would be quadratic formula. If it doesn't factor, you always have to use quadratic formula if it won't factor. Here, I'd probably factor it, like 1 and 4, 2 and 2, negative 4, positive 1, it totally factors. All right, so your homework tonight is page 477 and page 478, those additional practice problems. So please like and subscribe our video. I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson on 8.9, the quadratic formula and the discriminant. Please like and subscribe and have a fantastic day.